Elaeagnus, Silverberry, whatever you call it. This gorgeous evergreen is an absolute treasure in my garden. I have so much enjoyment from it because one, it's green all year round. Isn't that what evergreen means? And two, it gives the most silvery leaf look, as well as the fact that you can do some interesting things with it right now in late winter, because right now it's the 1st of March. But to find out what and what I'm going to do over the entire year, you probably want to keep watching. Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to my bonsai retreat. And as I just said, it's the 1st of March 2025. And for those of you who've been with my channel for a while, you'll know that I've fallen in love with this pretty shrub, Elaeagnus. I think it's called Silverberry or something like that. And it has the most gorgeous coppery leaves later on in the year. But what I discovered very, very early on is that there is something you can do to them right now. Late winter, you get rid of all of these beautiful green leaves, do a full defoliation. What that will tell this tree to do is out with the old, in with the new. And sometime, in a few months' time, we're going to start seeing some lovely, smaller Elaeagnus leaves. And then we can really enjoy the development of this tree. It's come a long way, but it's got further to go. So let's get some of these leaves off, shall we? Now, clearly, there's two very, very big advantages with doing this now. First of all, we can finally see how the structure's developing on this. And suddenly, with all that leaf gone, this looks 100% more impressive. It would look fantastic if it's deciduous and dropped all its leaves. But it means that I'm going to be able to go in there and do some pruning, which I'll do in a minute. I also need to get rid of that mop of Scottish moss and stuff like that, which all it's going to do is prevent this tree getting the goodness and water that it needs. But the other thing I can do, which I can't normally do with an evergreen, is now hit it with the what we'd call it the overwintering spray. But I definitely want to give every opportunity to get rid of any bugs that may be deciding to come out as the weather starts to warm up. I will say that as I was pulling those leaves off, there were lots of spiders just starting to get their cobwebs and their egg bundles, and there was some other sort of leafy mold there. Quite regular, it's quite a common thing with the Elaeagnus. But I mean, when you look at that structure, what's not to like about it? But you really have to admire that wide root base. Obviously, look at it once the weeds are out, and that's the other reason for making sure, because we've got all this was masked and can potentially cause rotting and all sorts of problems. But look at the spread of that. Absolutely awesome. I do think the Elaeagnus is an underrated and underused species. Let me know what you think. And the pruning is going to be the same for anything now. We've already got our primary branches in place. We've started getting our secondary structure coming out. I just need to bring that back into profile and have a little look and see. Really, I don't want anything going up here. So it may be that I'll actually now remove that. Got a thorn there, hate thorns. Got this one coming up. When you look at it, there's two nice ones either side. Get rid of the stub. So I might just take that top one there. We still get something coming up there. And then we look here, we've got one that's going to come out from here and here. Initially I can shorten it off to there. But truly, if that is the base, and this is, I think, something we need to remember, all of us, when we're pruning, that's the outlier. The branch is not going to come out. So the lowest branch here and here sets the structure for just shortening of all the others. So this one has got to come all the way back really to here. Same with that, it's got to come back to here. We start bringing it in, which then helps me to find here. I'm going to take off, I don't want that one coming up. That's fine. Do I want this inside branch? Well, as I said, I'll leave it for now. Right here, we've got one that's coming from that little junction. Don't want that. And there's also something from there, so we can rub that off. I've also got a little one up here from that junction. We can get rid of that. And as I say, with an evergreen, this is the time you can do this sort of work. So I'm just going to go around and follow the same principle, bearing in mind I've set my lines here. Here, this is coming out far too long. Back here, there's a bud, so I'm going to cut back to there. Same here, we've got this coming out here. I'll cut it right back. And I'm going to just keep going round using the same principle. Once I've set the point, like here, that's the furthest point I want that to come out to, which means I've got to really take that back, that back, that back, and I'll apply it to the rest. Now, I don't know about you, but I look at that and I'm like loving it. I'm in love with it again. And when I remember back to the days, the first video of this, when I first did some wiring and moved some branch placements, the wire, well, actually I can see where the wiring scar were, and because of the colour of the bark, it's healed in beautifully, and it's going to be brilliant. I really feel optimistic and happy about how this is going to develop long term. I've actually got it potted like that. I have a funny feeling the front is nearer there. Well, I thought I'd bring this back a little bit early. It's the 22nd of April, and now we can really start seeing the buds, leaf buds opening up on this this incredible tree. Do you know, the more I work with it, the more I love it. May not be everyone's cup, but for me, this evergreen just keeps on giving. It's this stage now. We've got the lovely tiny leaves. It looks fantastic, and it'll look this good for another sort of 6 to 8 weeks, definitely. But you know, all the places it's budding up, leaves are coming in, and this is what's going to allow me to develop that much tighter, believable ramification. And I just love this tree. And the leaves, you can see the silver spots and why they've got that sort of silvery look about them. Absolutely incredible. Anyway, stop hearing me dribble on. Let's have a look at this in another 4 or 5 weeks' time, shall we? And I might actually have to do some pruning decisions. Well, it's now the 5th of May, and this is probably the optimum time for this species. I love the leaf size. It's about half the size that it's going to be in another few weeks' time. And that lovely, incredible burnished, coppery look to it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love this tree. And yeah, really enjoy it. Well, here we are back, 25th, 26th of June, just had the summer solstice, and look at that. This is what all that hard work's all about. The leaves, half the size they would be, they're going to stay like this right through the year now, and I'm thinking this is looking pretty good. Yes, it could be a bit clunky in some of its shape, but you know what? It was just a nursery plant a few years ago, and now, well, I'm really happy about it. Yep, let's do some healing around here. There's some more work that can be done, but the whole purpose of that full leaf defoliation in the late winter is to allow us to get this lovely foliage now and enjoy it through the summer. So all that's really left to do now is give it a good balanced fertilizing. And as I say, this is I use a liquid one because I can control exactly what I want from it, and the birds can't knock the fertilizer pellets off. And then I'm going to continue to leave this in a nice prominent place on one of the benches, because now this is actually starting to become what I consider a pretty good Elaeagnus bonsai. I love it. And suddenly it's the 17th of October. And you're all looking at me going, Xav, I don't think you actually did anything during all that. Well, you're wrong. With this evergreen, particularly the Elaeagnus, all the work happens in late winter. That's the opportunity to take all the leaves off. That's the opportunity to start cutting back sort of major structures. Right now, as for many of our evergreens, we're quite content to leave them. The leaf structure themselves have got that waxy film. They're ready for the winter. But they're still doing an important job. They're still bringing in that light, and they're adding to growth, branch thickening, root development. So why on earth would I want to do any work right now? Now I know there's probably loads of you out there I don't know, Nicole, maybe even you're out there right now listening out going, Xavier, surely I should be doing something with my evergreens. Well, actually, you are right, Nicole. There is a few things we could be doing. And yes, I could look at this here. I've got some extensions that have gone 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves. I could, if I wanted to, just cut back to profile. And I think we talked about right here, way back in June, that I was thinking of cutting that off. And the reason why I didn't was I was waiting to see, if we have a look underneath, right here, there's a little growth. That is going to be the future that I want for that tree, which is going to allow me, I think, right now, to do that.
What's the difference?
That's all about just creating that pad separation. By having that one growing out, that is going to be the future for there. And then we have a look further around. I mean, clearly we've got this great big wound here. If I was honest, I really should have hit that in June time and opened that up a little bit more to get a much more equitable rollover. So yeah, that's going to go down in my bonsai database as something I need to do, and it'll give me a reminder next May. Other things we look around, well, again, I'm going to apply this equally to a lot of our evergreens. We need to be examining all the leaves. I mean, actually, it's probably worth looking. Look at those lovely spotted leaves you've got at the front there. Then you turn them over and there's almost this burnished gold look about them. Love the Silverberry, such incredible colours. And in fact, we've even in this case got a bit of variegation going on. So it's obviously a crossbreed, so to speak. But we will also be having a look around and just looking for anywhere where we've got stubs, old pruning stubs that we can cut back, and the usual, if we've got any sort of areas where there's 2s or 3s coming, we can indeed cut those back. Here we've got something that's going up, definitely don't want that. And probably more a case of having a look for stuff that I'll be looking at next year. Equally, the base, we just need to make sure that we've cleared this appropriately. I use some wire brushes or bristle brushes just to get off any residual moss, and I make sure around the base here there's nothing that's going to potentially leave to rot or something during the cold or wetter months. But really, having a look under loose bark, anything flaky, just to make sure that we haven't got any overwintering insects. If you look, this is going to be the front of the tree, and we've got this branch that's continues to grow across the front. I'm not looking to get any development from it, so I have no problem at all going in there and having a look and moving that, taking that stub back. But again, I'm really got to be careful. I don't want to take that much leaf structure off at all, really. Just stuff that is really not going to serve any purpose later on. You know, we can have a look here. We've got the main branch coming out. I could wire it, but actually underneath it, right here, got a nice little leaf pair. And I think if back in spring next year I cut back to here, that will cause that bud to come out and we'll get the growth I want. But there's nothing stopping me now, just for profile's sake, just taking this top off just a little bit, just bringing the pad in. Because the other thing we do still want to be able to do is ensure that it's not getting too choked up and that light doesn't get in there. So what we don't want to do is end up losing a lot of stuff on the insides. And again, to that end, continue to have a look and just make sure you haven't got anything residing on the base of those leaves. So for me, it's probably all I'll do right now. Give it a feed and then leave it till next February. But should we have a look at a few of the other broadleaf evergreen or stroke semi-evergreens? Yeah, I mean, we've got a whole range of stuff, whether it be your japonica, rhododendron azaleas. Here, I've got this lovely red berries of the Cotoneaster. We can see some leaves starting to yellow off. Well, do you know what? Let's clean those. They'll drop naturally anyway, but can help them on its way. So again, I just have a look and just make sure that, do I have any stubs I can remove? Anything that's a bit mouldy or something like that that detracts from the way it looks, but may actually lead to bug infestations, or indeed some sort of horrible disease or something that we don't want. So I'll just work my way around on those. And again, with the azalea itself, we've got a few leaves that have got some spotting on them, and I just allow those to be removed, and I have no trouble just pulling them away. You'll find that if you don't do this, the leaves will drop anyway, but I'd rather the leaves were taken away rather than potentially dropping on the soil. And really this fits in with a lot of your autumnal care, and I did a Think Ahead series for October, and one of the key things I say in that is when those leaves are dropping, get them off the soil, get them away, get them into recycling or whatever bins and bags, and get them away from your garden. Because also a lot of these leaves are hiding previous infections or things that we really don't want on our plants. Here we've got the honeysuckle or the ligustrum, and this one actually has been left alone all year. So I will in a minute do some basic clear up work on that. And as you can imagine, that's all got to be to do with suckers and stuff that are at the base. Just want to open out so that a lot of light and circulation can get in there. To the same line, your olives, also another sort of broadleaf evergreen. And I've already said with the olives, these are the smaller ones. These will probably come into a cold frame, or indeed I may actually have it into the heated garage area under a grow light. Interestingly enough, if we look in close there, we've actually got the olive, little baby olives, and I think you'll find in the UK that it's rare to get those to actually turn into lovely black fruits. And it's not just those standard varieties, we've also got our common English holly, which as you know, this has been growing on. I can't remember if it's a little air layer or indeed whether it was a cutting that I've been growing. This again, same procedure, I'll have a look and just check under the leaves. But in terms of pruning, in fact the only thing I will do is where I've got leaves growing right at the junction points. I can get rid of those, but and if I wanted to, just for the sake of profile, I can remove the upward stuff, but that's more about cosmetics rather than for any particular benefit. The work I'm going to do is let this continue to grow, and in the spring of 2026 this will be pruned. Equally, I've got the bigger holly which you saw me work on, that big Yamadori one, and it applies equally to the laurel or the bay leaf. You see that one got some really nice, strong, healthy, green looking leaves, and I can see the future buds on that. So they're all exciting projects for 2026, but I think I keep saying, really, for your evergreens, broadleaf evergreens, you're probably better off to leave them and have a look at them in the late winter. Oh gosh, of course it also applies to your box or your Buxus, and I've actually tended to ignore these this year. They were quite weak, and these have got actually quite orangey sort of yellowed off leaves. Find sometimes with these, if they get too much sun, the leaves will actually cook off a bit. But these are now also looking to go into their winter colours, which they'll keep right through until next year. But really, the work I'll do on that again with the Buxus, spring comes around, start pruning. And in terms of the privet, well, it's the same colour as the background. You've only got just a few now. They're firm winter leaves. You've just got a few that have got left a little bit of green, but this is now firmly got itself prepared for the colder winter months. And as a result, I'm going to leave all that structure on there and deal with it next year. So getting us back to this ligustrum, really just again clean it all up, have a look around the base. In here, inward growth, we'll get rid of that. And say it is still more inward growth there, get rid of that. Here, get rid of that. And this is what I'll do, I'll go right round now and just remove all this stuff here. Do I want it to divert energy to this one? Well, actually, that could be the right height for a low branch. So I'll probably keep that one and I'll continue to let it grow out, because if it's going to be the lowest branch, it also needs to be proportionally the thickest branch. And there we go, it's all nicely cleaned out. And as I said to you, truthfully, this pruning should have been done a little bit earlier. It's not going to affect the tree at all, but normally it wouldn't have been in such an overgrown state if I'd stayed on top of it. But yeah, it's fine. The only thing that I will say is I did do a little experiment last year, which was going to be a time lapse and sort of turned into nothing much. Is I have two of these, and this is the second one. This has got heavily cut down, but yeah, the experiment was one inside, one outside, and let's see what sort of difference there was. Maybe I should see if it makes any difference if I keep them in over the winter. But how will I know if it is making a difference? Well, here's what we're going to do. One of these is going to come indoors with me this year, and we're going to set it up on a windowsill that gets sunlight but isn't directly under a radiator, which is one of the big rules for all indoor plants. We want to try and keep the conditions of the environment stable. Not too hot, not too cold, certainly not drafty, and certainly not fluctuations in heat. Wow, here we are. It's March the 6th. Yes, it's still late winter. Sun is actually shining in, hence the hat. But let's just have a look. This was the Chinese Privet. Now this is the one that's been the control sample that stayed outside, and you'll see that it's healthy enough, but it hasn't changed. The leaves remain relatively yellowed in their winter state, as you'd probably expect. So what do you think happened to the one that was under the grow light indoors? Shouldn't be rocket science, but even I was mildly surprised that, well, I'll show you. Yeah, I was surprised, because I don't know if you can see, that is looking substantially greener and more vibrant than the one who's had to shiver outside. So yeah, did I expect that greenness? Don't know, I didn't know, to be honest. But what I can see here, that hopefully you're seeing right now, is some extensions as well. So this has actually been growing as well, and it has also been receiving some liquid feed. So indeed, has it made a difference me actually bringing this Chinese Privet indoors? Well, I'd say yes, it has. And to that end, both of these are going to come inside, and yes, I can hear you saying that definitely looks different from what you've just seen. And it's ongoing. You know, I've clipped it back, and originally there was a third trunk there. Well, I decided I don't like that, so that's come off, got some cut paste on it, and I've just wired out 5 main shoots. The reason why I've done all this pruning now is because I saw how it responded to being inside, because it's going inside, a bit like perhaps our other, what you'd call an evergreen broadleaf, is the ficus. That will be indoors. I can do work on that. So I'm quite happy to actually do quite a bit of work on that. And this will probably get fertilised and come indoors in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Interestingly, it's amazing, having brought that height down by a half, how much better and more compact this is eventually going to look. And again, it just goes to show, sometimes you've got to look at the height of your trunks and say, does it really make sense with what I've actually got further down and the thickness of the actual trunks? And let's be honest, that's all about your own preference and opinion, but in this case, I'm glad I made that decision last year. And it goes without saying that many of you definitely remember my Etruscan Vesuvian Azalea $50 challenge, probably one of the first ones a whole group of us did back in 2022. This is an evergreen, the Azalea, as I said earlier, and though I'm not going to do any pruning of the actual Satsuki azaleas themselves, we definitely don't want to be encouraging all this root growth, and we definitely need to get our little tortoise, there he is, embedded firmly. We need to get him all cleaned up and away from this horrible muck, which, as you well know, will do one thing only: will strangle the life out of these trees. I think this is going to look absolutely fantastic when it finally starts producing flowers. But in the meantime, I've got to do everything I possibly can to keep the soil healthy, to keep good ventilation and health within the trees themselves. And if you want to see more about this incredible Satsuki azalea, which started as part of the original $50 bonsai challenge, well, that's the video. It's had a few ups and downs and remakes. Apart from that, enjoy your evergreens, happy bonsai, and God bless. Cheers.